ISO stands for the International Organization for Standardization. It's French, and so that's why it comes out ISO instead of iOS. And the ISO Technical Committee 145 standardizes graphical symbols on a worldwide basis, as well as safety sign formats and safety label formats and colors, and how you integrate the symbols and colors onto signage so that safety can be communicated on a worldwide basis consistently. That's the key, consistency. Yellow is used on a warning sign, a warning triangle, and it's the background color for a black symbol, and it indicates that a potential hazard is present. And then there are prohibition signs. It's a red circle with a red slash going through it at a 45-degree angle, upper left to lower right, and it has a black graphic symbol behind it, and those signs indicate something that you should not do, or you have the potential to interact with a hazard and get hurt. Then you have mandatory action signs, and these are blue circles, white graphic, and they indicate an action that you should take in order to avoid a hazard. Typically you might use those for like personal protective equipment, wearing hard hats, wearing eye protection, that type of thing. And then you have the symbols having to do with fire equipment. They're a red square with a white flame determinative element and a white graphical symbol indicating what the equipment is, such as a fire extinguisher or a fire alarm. And then you have green squares with white graphics in them, and they're for the location of safety equipment or safe condition, like the cross, which would be used for first aid. The running man going through an open door, and that's to indicate that there's an emergency exit in this direction, that type of thing. So green, red, blue, yellow. In ISO, they all indicate a different type of safety message. So as you get closer to the sign, you'd see not just the color, but the symbol, and the symbol would tell you what the specific message is. That's the vocabulary of how color is used in ISO. The emotional toll on a company when an accident occurs and someone's killed in the equipment that they sell, or they lose their fingers or their arm or they're crushed. It's a process you want to avoid at all costs. Not only for the pain and suffering of the person that's hurt, but there's a lot of pain and suffering in the company itself. The process of designing a safety sign or label it's fascinating. Taking the client's message, saying, okay, here are the things we need to warn about, how best can we do that? The first part is to understand what part of those messages can be done in a pictorial form, in a symbolic form. It allows you to find the sign, be able to see it, and not really have to read it. That image speaks 1,000 words. You have to be clear, and you have to be brief. On the one hand, you want to be able to say exactly what needs to be said so that people understand the message, what the hazard is, they understand the consequence of interaction, they understand the seriousness of the hazard, and you also have to tell them how to avoid the hazard. But if you do it in like a long laundry list set of rules, or your text just goes off on the deep end in terms of content, people will ignore the sign. If every state had their own highway signage and you were pulled up to an intersection and there was a nice triangular green sign that said stop on it in black, and you're looking at that and say, what are they doing? I'm used to a red octagonal sign that says stop. Well, why are we used to that? It's because it's been standardized on a federal basis. Well, we're trying to do the same thing with safety. A globalized use of symbols, a globalized use of formatting and color, and the amount and level of content that goes on signage. You know, Clarion's referred by some of the largest insurance companies in the world. They don't want the accidents to happen. They don't want the liability. They don't want the cost involved, both the emotional cost and the financial cost. And knowing that none of our customers, to our knowledge, have ever been sued for a failure to warn or inadequate warning. That's the greatest benefit. 98% of what we produce is done in our production facilities right here in Milford, Pennsylvania. And we've invested in digital print technology that's second to none. You put a label on a product and you want it to stay there for the life of the product. And we're working oftentimes with machinery that lasts 20, 30, 40 years out in the field, and sometimes even outdoor conditions. And there's no tolerance for that label coming off. We know the standards, we help to write them, and we know how they can be applied to all different types of hazards across all different industries. There's nobody doing what we do. There are printers out there that'll print signs, they'll even customize signs for you, but you have to tell them what you want on that sign. There's no expertise on their part that comes into play. If we can protect the people from injury in the first place, to mitigate the risk, reduce it, the lawsuits don't happen.